E3 is the time of year where video game companies lie to our faces about upcoming titles.
It allows us to have 16 times the detail.
There we go. What do you think?
Look at what just happened.
Still, every gamer gets excited for it because it's like a mini celebration for being a fan, even if it's just over-glorified commercials with no substance. It's a time of year to either be hyped about upcoming video games or being bored out of your mind with how little is actually being shown. Back in the day, we would have three major events, that being Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, with other smaller and more boring events sprinkled in. These were the big guns, usually having the biggest announcements since they own the biggest intellectual properties or IPs in the industry. However, during a certain point in time, Nintendo actually stopped doing the main stage events in favor of streaming a pre-recorded video with all their major announcements instead. This was unprecedented, since E3 was the place to make your major announcements for that year. But Nintendo probably crunched the numbers and figured it would be far cheaper to produce a video than have a whole live stage event, where things could go wrong.
You ever wonder what the bottom of an Avatar shoe looks like? Well, bam! There it is.
They would of course evolve into Nintendo Directs, which are now more widely accepted. But what about the last stage conference? What made them want to switch to digital-only events? Let's take a look back on Nintendo's last E3 stage conference and what it was like. A quick recap. Nintendo had just announced their upcoming console, the Wii U, in the previous E3. Keep in mind, they haven't really shown off what the system was capable of by this point. They only had a bunch of tech demos and a Smash Bros game that hasn't even started production yet. So this was a time to really show the world why the Wii U was worth it. The conference begins with Miyamoto coming onto stage to talk about Pikmin that begin to appear in the audience, making some of them very uncomfortable. Pikmin 3 is then announced.
Allow me to introduce the next Pikmin to you.
Surprising the audience, which is hilarious because they were not being subtle about the fact that they were just about to announce Pikmin 3. Reggie then walks in.
I feel just like a purple Pikmin.
And talks about how their E3 presentation is presented by Spike TV and MTV, which kinda dates this even more. Side note, where did you guys used to watch E3 before it became more readily available via streaming? I remember watching it on G4 every year before they got taken off the air. Anyways, Reggie continues to talk about the Wii U, but the messaging behind it isn't any clearer. Is it a controller? Is it an add-on? Or is it an all-new console? The gamepad is talked about more than the console itself, which is kinda odd since you'd think they would want to make this product more appealing to casual audiences, since this product was clearly aimed at them.
The Wii U hardware will support 2 separate gamepads.
That never happened. They then show off the Miiverse, rest in peace, before showing off a new Super Mario Bros. Game coming to the Wii U called New Super Mario Bros. U. This was such a mad announcement because it looked to be the exact same as their previous 2 games in the series, and also because there was a new Super Mario Bros. Game coming out for the 3DS that also looked the exact same, but only with coins, so you can see why a lot of people weren't all that excited about this announcement. A Harley Quinn JPEG talks to Reggie for way too long about how their 1-year-old game is coming to the Wii U.
Why don't you let me handle this?
It is very awkward. They try to hype up Arkham City, but they make very little changes to the game that does not warrant people to buy it again for the Wii U. Scribblenauts is talked about for a little bit before showing off a trailer for more third-party games coming to the Wii U. I remember young me being excited about this because it finally meant that the Wii U was finally getting more third-party support, since the Wii barely had any. The Wii U also looked like it was finally not going to be underpowered compared to its contemporaries. Wii U Fit is announced and Reggie acknowledges the meme.
Yes, my body was ready.
Then reveal a highly anticipated game called Sing. Then they show the trailer for New Super Mario Bros. 2 in the same event where they just showed a trailer for New Super Mario Bros. U. Do you see what I mean by people feeling tired about these game series by this point? Trailers for Paper Mario Sticker Star, Luigi Mansion 2, and other 3DS party games are shown up before they talk about the next Wii U exclusive, Lego City Undercover. This game looked to be like a GTA clone but for Legos, so it's glad to see that Nintendo is actually taking their mature audience seriously for once. Anyways, they also talk about how there's a 3DS version being worked on for this game, but they didn't even have a graphic for it, meaning they didn't even start working on this game yet. Ubisoft then comes on stage and tries to say that the Wii U gamepad is very necessary for the Just Dance 4 experience. ZombiU was then announced, which actually looked promising since the Wii U gamepad looked like it was actually being utilized correctly. They even showed off a trailer that didn't look all that jank. Then they showed off the Wii U's face camera technology, and it clearly doesn't work.
Looking good, Reggie. Looking very good.
Ah, I like French food.
But before this go,
They just put a zombie PNG and overlapped it on top of Reggie's face and called it a day. The trailer for more Ubisoft games coming to Wii U is announced, and finally they saved the best for last. The one, the only, Nintendo Land.
Just as with Wii, start playing Nintendo Land and you start understanding Wii U.
This game was, it is very clearly trying very hard to show off the gamepad as a new experience and not just a gimmick for the new console. And in the process, only makes the gamepad look more like a gimmick. Look, the fifth player could do all these things that a regular controller can't do, like add blocks to hinder or help people in New Super Mario Bros. U, or look at your inventory, or draw, or play on it. These ideas are fine for an accessory, but to have it based around a whole new console made it feel like Nintendo was really trying to be innovative for the sake of it, rather than actually make a worthwhile console. The game looked fun, but not revolutionary, like the Wii and Wii Sports was. With that console, it did a successful job at marketing towards casual audiences, since it is very clear to grasp the idea behind motion controls. With the Wii U, you had to convince people that using a tablet on top of looking at the TV at the same time was going to be functional, but it didn't really emphasize why it had to be a gamepad in the first place. But don't worry, the conference ends with a bang with Nintendo Land fireworks.
Enjoy.
And that's how they cap off their last stage conference at E3. What? A letdown? Underwhelming? Whatever it wasn't good. That was a really weak showing, especially since Nintendo was pushing for a new system that was coming out later that year, but they didn't really show off why you should buy it. They really should have pulled out all the big guns on why the system was unique and worth buying. But instead, they really didn't make things any clearer and made a mediocre show filled with a bunch of titles that were really nothing to get all that excited about. I remember trying to convince myself that the Wii U was worth buying, but I, along with many others, agreed that the showing could have been so much better. Ever since then, Nintendo has switched to digital-only events, and I think most of us can agree that it was for the best. It started off a bit rocky in the beginning,
What's wrong with you?
but now has become a staple in itself. Nintendo Directs cut out most of the stage fluff of an E3 conference and just gives people what they want, that being upcoming games and exciting announcements. The Directs have become so iconic that it's what a lot of people end up looking forward to during an E3, since that almost guarantees that a new Direct is going to come out soon. Even Sony has started doing what Nintendo has been doing for years, with some success even. I do think that the E3 stage show in general is an outdated model, and switching to a digital-only presentations would help cut out a lot of the unnecessary fluff in most E3 events. It was interesting to look on how Nintendo's last E3 conference was, and it was a bit charming to look back on it, honestly. At least we know we won't be getting whatever the hell this was anymore.